Our psalm for this evening is Psalm 95. Come, let us sing to the Lord. Let us shout for joy to the rock of our salvation. Let us come before God's presence with thanksgiving and raise a loud shout to the Lord with psalms. For you, Lord, are a great God and a great ruler above all gods. In your hands are the caverns of the earth. The heights of the hills are also yours. The sea is yours, for you made it. In your hands have molded the dry land. Come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker. For the Lord is our God, and we are the people of God's pasture, and the sheep of God's hand. Oh, that today you would hear God's voice. Harden not your hearts as at Meribah, as on that day at Massah in the desert. There your ancestors tested me. They put me to the test, though they had seen my works. 40 years I loathed that generation, saying, the heart of this people goes astray. They do not know my ways. Indeed, I swore in my anger, they shall never come to my rest.
For the reading of the gospel. Our gospel reading for tonight comes from John, the 4th chapter. So he came to the Samaritan city called Sychar, near the plot of ground that Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired out by his journey, was sitting by the well. It was about noon. A Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." His disciples had gone to the city to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "How is it that you, a Jew, ask a drink of me, a woman of Samaria? Jews do not share things in common with Samaritans." Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that is saying to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." The woman said to him, "Sir, you have no bucket, and the well is deep. Where do you get that living water? Are you greater than our ancestor Jacob, who gave us the well, and with his sons and his flocks drank from it?" Jesus said to her, "Everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again, but those who drink of the water that I will give them will never be thirsty. The water that I will give will become in them a spring of water, gushing up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water, so that I may never be thirsty or have to keep coming here to draw water." Jesus said to her, "Go, call your husband and come back." The woman answered him, "I have no husband." Jesus said to her, "You are right in saying, 'I have no husband,' for you have had 5 husbands, and the one you now have is not your husband. What you have said is true." The woman said to him, "Sir, I see that you are a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you say that the place where people must worship is in Jerusalem." Jesus said to her, "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem, but the hour is coming and is now here when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father seeks such as these to worship him." The woman said to him, "I know that the Messiah is coming, who is called the Christ. When he comes, he will proclaim all things to us." Jesus said to her, "I am he, the one who is speaking to you." Just then his disciples came. They were astonished that he was speaking with a woman. But no one said, "What do you want?" or "Why are you speaking with her?" Then the woman left her water jar and went back to the city. She said to the people, "Come and see a man who told me everything I have ever done. He cannot be the Messiah, can he?" They left the city and were on their way to him. Many Samaritans from the city believed in him because of the woman's testimony. "He told me everything I've ever done." So when the Samaritans came to him, they asked him to stay with them. And he stayed there 2 days, and many more believed because of his word. They said to the woman, "It is no longer because of what you said that we believe, for we have heard for ourselves, and we know that this is truly the Savior of the world." This is the word of the Lord. Please be seated. Harriet. Harriet lived in a small town in northern Minnesota. You know northern Minnesota small towns. There's an elevator, maybe a couple of gas stations, and always a cafe. If the cafe were to close down, the town would probably be crushed because that's where you go to get the news, right? Some might call it gossip, but for those good upstanding northern Minnesota types, it's news. And the cafe was where you go to be in the know. There's only one grocery store in this little town, but of course everyone complains about the prices. Down at that cafe, you regularly hear Harriet's friends saying, "I can't believe what they ask for a loaf of bread or a jar of jam. Where's this stuff coming from? China?" Oh, and when the former owner of the grocery store, Paul Olson, passed his store onto his son, Paul Jr., that created quite the stir down at the cafe. That provided for about 2 months worth of conversation down there. Because the minute Paul Jr. took over the store, he started making changes. He spiffed things up around the place. New paint, new sign, new products. Harriet and the ladies said, "Well, where does he think this store is? Fargo?" Well, Paul Jr. really sent them all spinning when he applied for a liquor license. And he built a small liquor store attached to that grocery store. That was 11 years ago, and Harriet is still stewing about that one. Whenever you pull up to the grocery store with Harriet, she still goes off about all those drunks in town and sins of the flesh and how the town once had been much more holy. Well, most people in that small town have nice, neat, manicured lawns. Folks from Harriet's town, they are good, hard-working stock who believe an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. The town has always been mostly Norwegians and Swedes. A few intermarried now and then, but they tried to keep the bloodlines separate. The Swedes go to Concordia Lutheran, while the Norwegians go to Little Norway Lutheran Church, just outside of town. There are also a few Germans, we're told, about the town, but they go to that little Catholic church on the other side of town. It's kind of interesting. Though Harriet has lived in this small town for 83 years of her life, she doesn't really know too many of those Catholics. Well, on the 4th of July every summer, the town holds the biggest 4th of July parade in northern Minnesota history. They take pride. They hand out hundreds of mini flags. Tons of candy gets passed out. Harriet's grandkids and great-grandkids, they come back to town for the 4th and for the parade. And it isn't just Harriet's kids. Everyone comes back to town for the 4th of July. They come streaming in from big places like Fargo and Grand Forks and Duluth. Some grandkids even come from as far away as the big city, the Twin Cities. Harriet loves having the kids around, but the ladies down at the cafe, they always talk about their grandkids who have moved to the cities like they're sort of lost souls in need of saving, as though they've somehow lost their way and are in need of some saving in their life. Someday they'll come back, the ladies say. Well, all the grandkids come back for the 4th of July, and they all sack out at Grandma Harriet's house. They get up early for the annual 4th of July 5K fun run, which isn't the most organized event. You see, most years there in that little town, that 5K fun run, there aren't quite enough signs marking the course, or often the signs are pointing in the wrong direction. So inevitably, the runners find themselves sort of aimlessly running through town. Eventually, after you feel like you've run long enough, you make your way to the finish line. It's sort of a run on an honor system, I guess you could say. After the 5K, all the grandkids, they head down to the main street where an Amish family that lives just outside of town, they pull their buggy in, their wagon, and they sell fresh-baked donuts and apple fritters. They sell pies and all kinds of sweets. It's delicious. The Amish, well, the Amish are often a topic of conversation also amongst Harriet and the good ladies. One day, overheard the lady saying, "I heard they don't use electricity out there." "Yeah, I heard that they forced their kids to butcher their own chickens." "Yeah. Yeah, I saw them cutting hay in the ditches out east of town. Those boys couldn't have been 8 years old." "I don't know about those Amish. They could be a bit more friendly in the grocery store. They don't even say hi when you walk by. They're kind of like that Russian family that had that farm north of town a few years back." Well, what the grandkids loved most about being at Grandma Harriet's over the 4th is the county fair. Of course, the county fair is the oldest fair in Minnesota, 125 years old. The fair has changed a bit over the years, but a lot has stayed the same. Though Berg's Cafe uptown closed decades ago, their grandkids still set up a Berg's Burger stand at the fair. There's homemade ice cream and lemonade. Oh, and the fair wouldn't be complete without the Ufta taco stand. Oh, the family loves those Ufta tacos. Harriet's family faithfully supports the Ufta taco stand because one of the cousins worked her way through college at Morehead State University, working the fair circuit in an Ufta taco trailer. Well, every day at the fair, there's a bike raffle. Thursday night is the demolition derby. There's a talent contest, and they added something. They added a late-night dance in a beer garden a couple of years back. Harriet, of course, is still livid about that one. Why do they need to ruin the fair with dancing in that garden? Harriet couldn't even say the word beer. Well, like every year, the Schulsteds won every grand champion blue ribbon for their 4-H vegetables at the fair. The Schulsteds had some deal worked out with the research department at the University of Minnesota Ag School up in Crookston. Harriet and the girls had something to say about that, too. They often speculated that the Schulsteds were getting some fertilizer for their garden that was experimental, only legal in Europe and China, they said. I don't know if I'd eat their veggies, they'd say. Well, everybody loved the fair. Everybody loved the fair. And of course, with the fair come the rides and the fun house and the super slide and all the midway games. And with the midway came the workers, the traveling workers who went with the fair from town to town. The fair workers were an especially hot topic with Harriet and the ladies up at the cafe. You know, the fair workers, the guys who come and set up the rides, fry the corn dogs, take your ticket. They attempt to lure you into spending a few more bucks to win a prize for your lady, right? There was the bearded lady also, and there's the guy who gets shot out of the cannon, and a woman who claimed she was half horse, but no one really knew if that was true because being sensible Midwesterners, no one would ever pay the $5 they charged to see her. Now, the fair workers come from all over, Kansas City, Arizona, Missouri. Harriet and the ladies thought some of them might not even be American. I don't know if those people speak much English, they'd say. Harriet always tells her grandkids to keep their distance from the carnies. Better be safe than sorry, she says. The whole town seems to sort of tolerate these outsiders for the week because I guess you can't have a fair without them. At the cafe, they speculated the liquor store sales probably went through the roof the week of the fair on account of the carnies. One morning during the fair last summer, the phones of the ladies in town were buzzing Mrs. Jacobson. She was on her way to uptown to the grocery store to get some flour to bake pies for the church booth at the fair. As she was walking uptown, she looked to her right, and there she spotted one of the carnies. She couldn't believe it. He was waking up under a tree in St. Joseph's Cemetery. You can imagine what Harriet and the ladies had to say about all that. When it comes to those fair workers, what is always most interesting to those grandkids is how Harriet and the ladies and all the town folk referred to these carnies, these fair workers. They always referred to them as those people. It was kind of like they didn't even have titles or names. Why don't those people take a bath more often or use a little more deodorant, huh? Why don't those people smile a little more? Why do those people smell so bad? I can't wait till those people are out of town so I don't have to lock my doors anymore at night. Well, every year, everyone came back and enjoyed the fair. I guess that's just how things are for Harriet and the ladies in that great little town they live in. Everyone knew, though, that this 1 week out of the year, you just have to be careful for those people. Well, this little town, This little town I've been talking about isn't any particular town. I suppose Harriet could be my grandma or your grandfather, or it could be your mom, or it could be your dad, or I suppose it could be you or me too, for that matter. And it doesn't seem we always, it seems to me that we always have this need, like Harriet, to have those people. Those people. Why don't those people go get a job? Why do those people from the cities who come here every summer take over our town and always bring trouble with them? It's those people who grew up in the sticks, those people who live on that lake or in that neighbor. It's those people, those gay people. It's those African American people, those immigrant people, those Native Americans, those tiger moms, those deadbeat dads, those Democrats, those Republicans, those people at that other church. You get what I'm saying? You fill in the blank for yourself. Those people, we all do this, right? I also think, though, that we've all been on the other side of the coin. We've all had Harriets in our lives who have made us feel as though we're one of those people. If you've lost your job, if your health doesn't allow you to do what you used to do, if your income is less than your neighbor, if you go through a divorce, if you suffer from depression or alcoholism or whatever it might be, you know what it's like to feel as though the Harriets of this world have stamped a big label across your forehead that says, I'm one of those people. Folks, in our story from the Bible today, Jesus sits down. He sits down with this woman at the well, this woman that everyone would have called one of those people. She was an outsider. She was a Samaritan, an enemy of the Jews, and she's a woman with a questionable past. It says she's been married 5 times, and the man she's with isn't even her own husband. You know, she was one of those people. She was there collecting water at a well located on the outskirts of town. Most likely she wasn't welcome at the well in the center of town. And it was noon. She likely chose to go to the well at noon rather than in the morning when everyone else was there. This way she avoided all the stares and the ridicule and the criticism, because she was one of those people. Folks, you heard the story, though. For Jesus, there are no those people. He approached her and reminded her that she's not one of those people, rather she's one of God's people. She's a child of God. She's loved. There's no room, no place in God's world for labels like those people. I think sometimes we need to be reminded of this, don't we? I don't know about you, but I sometimes find myself acting like Harriet now and then, and I hate it. I hate it. I can name all of those people in my life. I probably deep down call them those people because, if I'm honest, I have this need to be better than others. I don't know. But that's not how things work, folks, with this God of ours. There are no us and them. We're all, every last one of us, we're loved by the great love of this God of ours. We're God's people. If you've got a voice in your head, a voice in your head, a Harriet voice that's telling you you're one of those, let it go. Be done with it. Whatever you've done or not done, whatever the journey of your life looks like, if you're not one of those people, you're one of God's people. 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 You're one of You're just plain wonderful in the eyes of this God. You're one of God's people. You're special, and you're God's very own, just as you are. Thanks be to God. Amen.